dependency.
Thank you, fam, for
upon his
joining.
goodness is
Today,
part
we're just
of
going to
his
watch some news
purpose.
while I get some
And so,
studying
as
done.
stewards of creation,
Before we even start, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate every single one of you. And let's get it.
Marshall and Congressman G.T. Thompson. We also have leaders with us here in the audience from Alabama, from Arkansas, from Florida, Kansas, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia, who have joined us for this historic rollout to address one of the most significant national security threats facing our nation. But first, I want to say that we gather together at a moment when the power of nature is rendered especially vivid to us. The floods in my native Texas, which have carried away so many lives, many of whom my family knew, has caused so much heartbreak and brought so many tears. It touches every one of us, not just those of us from the Lone Star State, but every American who cares about their neighbor, and especially every parent whose heart reposes not within themselves, but within their own children. It is not within our power to ease their pain, nor should those most devastating losses be erased or eased. But what we can do is grieve alongside them, and I know that's what we're all doing. And we can also join them in a sorrow that honors the joy of their children's and their family members' lives. It is not and has never been God's purpose that we suffer, but it is within his design that we rely upon his creation. We see that in extraordinary natural tragedy as over the last few days, but we also see it in the beneficial fruits of his creation, the bounty of the land, the yield of our farms, the produce and the product of our labor. That dependency upon his goodness is part of his purpose. And so as stewards of creation, we have an obligation to protect it. In protecting it, we protect ourselves, and that's why we're here today. Nowhere is this illuminated more vividly than in the stewardship and conservation of our American farmlands. We're here to talk about that today, and we're here to address one particular facet of that stewardship, responding to one particular type of threat. The plain reality is that American agriculture in American hands is a positive good, a rich blessing that we carefully tend and upon which rests the sustenance and future of our republic. Every family, every home, every community depends upon what our farmers do, and they support and sustain us, not merely by keeping us materially fed, but by keeping us spiritually strong. The farm's produce is not just a commodity, it is a way of life that underpins America itself. And that's exactly why it is under threat from criminals, from political adversaries, and from hostile regimes that understand our way of life as a profound and existential threat to themselves. For them, agricultural lands and our farms, because they are a previous inheritance, are weapons to be turned against us. We see it again and again, from Chinese communist acquisition of American farmland to criminal exploitation of our system of agriculture to the theft of operational information required to work the land and beyond. All of this takes what is profoundly good and turns it towards evil purposes. But November 2024 signaled it's time for our federal government to wake up and step up. And that's exactly what we are doing under the leadership of President Donald Trump. With this announcement today, we are taking this purpose and our American farmland back. American agriculture is not just about feeding our families, but about protecting our nation and standing up to foreign adversaries who are buying our farmland, stealing our research, and creating dangerous vulnerabilities in the very systems that sustain us. Reshoring and nearshoring our food and agriculture supply chain is essential for our nation's security. In coordination with the White House, the Departments of Treasury, Defense, Homeland Security, and Justice, as well as state governors, state agriculture commissioners, local, tribal, and territorial governments, today we announced the USDA's National Farm Security Action Plan. This plan includes 7 key action items, and there's a lot of people here that I want you to hear from, so I'm not going to go one by one, but just very quickly. It's on our website. The press has gotten a preview of it, and we can ask some questions once we finish the main program. But very quickly, and perhaps the most important, the first of the 7 is securing and protecting American farmland ownership. Actively engaging at every level of government to take swift legislative and executive action to ban the purchase of American farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries. Standing on the shoulders of great governors, 3 of whom are standing behind me, who have already been leading the way on this issue. And at the federal government level, working to do everything within our ability, including presidential authorities, to claw back what has already been purchased by China and other foreign adversaries. Additionally, working with the Treasury of the Secretary of the Treasury, along with our Defense Department on memorandums to ensure that moving forward, there is a much more intentional look at who is buying what in this country and from where they are in the world. Also enhancing our agricultural supply chain resilience, also protecting our U.S. nutrition safety net from fraud and foreign exploitation. Number 4, defending agricultural research and innovation. No more sweetheart deals and secret pacts with countries that do not have our best interests in mind. Number 5, making sure that America First is in every USDA program, from farm loans to food safety. We have already canceled 7 active agreements with entities in foreign countries of concern and will continue to cancel additional agreements moving forward. I signed a memo today, thank you, which immediately removes 70 citizens from countries of concerns that currently are affiliated with the USDA through contracts or research arrangements. And we are working to issue regulatory action to remove over 550 entities from foreign countries of concern from our preferred catalog. Number 6, safeguarding plant and animal health, working to make sure that we know what is coming in and how to control animal diseases. And number 7, protecting critical infrastructure from our farms and our food and our supply chains, again, along with so many partners across this government here in Washington and across our states. Now, please help me welcome to the podium the amazing Secretary Pete Hegseth. Thank you all.
Well, Brooke, thank you so much for your incredible leadership on this issue. It's an honor to be here. It's a very important one. I think we're all here for 2 basic reasons. One, under President Trump's leadership, we're going to put America first. We have America, American land, American basing, American troops, American citizens. You have a Secretary of Homeland Security who cares about Homeland Security. You have an attorney, imagine that. You have an Attorney General that cares about justice. You have a Secretary of Agriculture that cares about our farmland and our farmers. You have governors who've led the way, and senators and congressmen who now have reinforcements from an America First movement. That it's about America First, but it's also just the application of common sense. As someone who's charged with leading the Defense Department, I want to know who owns the land around our bases and strategic bases, and getting an understanding of why foreign entities, foreign companies, foreign individuals might be buying up land around those bases. That's something I should be paying attention to on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my department, and on behalf of the president. It's common sense. And so food security, just like energy resilience, just like where we get our water, that's all national security, especially in a contingency. So we would be asleep at the wheel if we were not fully a party to an effort like this to ensure that our nation had the food supply it needs, but specifically our troops have what they need on our bases, so that in those moments you can rely on us here in the United States to provide that security. So no longer can foreign adversaries assume we're not watching and we're not paying attention and we're not doing something about it, because we are. So Brooke, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Please help me welcome to the podium to speak of the agri-terrorism threats, our incredible Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Thank
thank you all. And we know Texas is your home state, Secretary Rollins. Our hearts go out to all those in Texas and the families, as well as in North Carolina, who are also experiencing those horrible floods. We're so happy to be here today to protect our farmers, our ranchers, and our ag community. Under President Trump, we are proudly putting our farmers first again. Thank you to our Congress, our governors, all of the great people who have gathered here today. My job is to make America safe again, which includes protecting our farmers who feed our families. The Department of Justice will use every tool at our disposal to secure, defend, and protect our ag community from threats. Our Environmental and Natural Resources Division has successfully defended the Forest Service as it manages our forest. We're also defending mining critical and strategic minerals, which is very important to our nation's security. We're cracking down on pesticide trafficking. And we are doing this by closing the southern border, working hand in hand with our great Kristi Noem, where illegal and highly toxic chemicals from Mexico were smuggled into the U.S., and the Department of Justice is prioritizing the arrest of those illegal aliens doing it. Additionally, our National Security Division is actively monitoring foreign threats to American agriculture. Last month in Michigan, this is very frightening, we charged 2 Chinese nationals for attempting to smuggle potential agro-terrorism weapons into the United States. Both of them have ties to the CCP.
Get hooked up with Cash App Card. Just add an offer and save instantly when you pay.
Have ties to the CCP. Just days later, we arrested another Chinese citizen for sending packages of concealed biological materials into the United States. It's going to stop. FBI has opened over 100 bio-smuggling investigations in recent years. We will prosecute you. We will hold you accountable. Thank you to everyone who is here today, especially Secretary Rollins, Secretary Hegseth, all of our good friends, governors, my good friend, Governor Huckabee, and all of us will never back down from supporting our American farmers. God bless you, and God bless America.
Next, the incredible Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, everyone.
Well, good morning, and I am so blessed and pleased to be here with Brooke, who is a dear friend of mine, and our hearts and prayers still continue to go out with Texas, and I'll be back down there in a few days to spend more time with them and to help them continue to heal and with recovery efforts. The one thing I wanted to share with all of you today is that long before I had the honor of serving as President Trump's Homeland Security Secretary, I was a farmer. I was a rancher. In fact, I've worked on food policy for over 30 years. And I recognize that food policy is national security policy. A country who cannot feed itself, cannot take care of itself, and cannot provide for itself is not secure. And that we have to be able to feed ourselves to make sure that no other country ever controls us. And I've watched for decades as evil foreign governments, including China, have come into this country and they've stolen our intellectual property. They've manipulated their currency. They've treated us unfairly in trade deals. They've come in and purchased up our processing companies, stolen our genetics. In fact, I've worked in this building off and on commissions and projects and laws and different statutes to ensure that China did not completely take control of our entire food supply chain, recognizing that the United States of America would be in jeopardy if that ever were to happen. I've watched them come in and establish a presence in stealing our chemicals, in providing our fertilizer for us. And so 2 years ago, when I served as governor of South Dakota, we passed a law in our state that said China and 6 other foreign evil governments would never own our farmland. And I'm very proud to say that in South Dakota, China does not own any of our land, nor will they ever own any of our land. While I served in Congress, I worked hard to put in programs that would help manage risk for farmers. I tell people all the time, farmers are the biggest gamblers that I know. They go to a bank oftentimes and they have to borrow money to buy land. Then they go back to the bank and they need machinery to work that land, and so they borrow some more money to do that. Then they have to go back and get an operating note to purchase seed and fertilizer or chemical potentially. And they put it in the dirt, and they hope that months later it'll rain, the sun will shine, and that there'll be something there that they can pick up, that they can sell, and then that the markets that are beyond their control, that there will be a price there that will help them cash flow, so they can go back and do it all over again the next year. They do that so that they can feed this country, so that they can feed this world. In fact, growing up as a little girl and as a daughter of a farmer and a rancher, I always felt like God loved farmers more. I mean, if you look at the Bible, look at Scripture, and you look over and over again, he talks about sowing and reaping and cattle on 1,000 hills and your barns to overflowing. And so I feel like there's a special blessing on farmers, and the fact that we have a president and that we have a Secretary of Agriculture that recognizes the importance of food policy and what it means to this country's security is so wonderful. It's such a change from what the previous administration and how they prioritized our farmers and ranchers. So now as the Secretary of Homeland Security, I have responsibilities when it comes to securing our homeland. But many of those responsibilities have to do with securing our critical infrastructure. We have the responsibility for 10 of our 16 critical infrastructures, which means our electrical grid, our water supply chain, how we protect and run this country, and what we do to make sure the people here are safe, but not just the people, the products and goods that come in and out of this country. Our Customs and Border Protection units are the ones that all of our goods come into this country and leave this country on, and their investigations and how they inspect our ag products are critically important to make sure that we aren't facing any kind of threats from what kind of products may come into this country or what kind of terrorist acts might happen from goods that other countries may wish to send to us that would harm our food supply. We will continue to make sure that we have the systems in place, the people in place, the experts in place, and the policies in place to make sure that this country always feeds itself, and that we always have the ability to grow our own food, and that we rely on no one else to feed the people of the United States of America, because it is a national security issue when a country cannot provide for itself, and we will never let any other country control our food supply or control our people, because we will always be the great United States of America. Thank you.
Yeah, I was reminded when Christy was Governor Nome and we were at America First Policy, Christy, you and I did an event together on this very issue 3 years ago, and she, along with some of the other governors, really stepped up. So thank you, Secretary Nome. Next, a longtime friend and partner from the first Trump administration and someone who has been leading on this for years and years. Please help me welcome White House Counselor Peter Navarro.
What a beautiful day to be out here, and it's difficult, I think, for a lot of Americans to wrap their head around what we're talking about today. We're such a good and kind nation that has done so much for the rest of the world over so many decades, including fighting 2 world wars on behalf of the rest of the world. But this is so serious an issue. The Art of War book, Sun Tzu, centuries old, says that the acme of warfare is to win without firing a shot. We fast forward to a book that was written by 2 high-ranking military officials in China called Unrestricted Warfare. And you understand that we are indeed in a new world where kinetic warfare is not the first choice of our rivals anymore. Rather, it is things like sending us seeds, or trying to steal our seeds, or trying to change the seeds. It is acquiring our supply chain in agriculture. It's setting up spy shops on land next to military bases. Do you remember when that balloon, it was just a weather station? We seem so naive about so much of this, when in fact we have nations and bad actors trying to do bad things using our supply chains now as weapons. The world changed yet again on April 2nd when the Chinese embargoed critical minerals, not just on us, but for the rest of the world. The Russians now embargo things like neon and helium and uranium as a tool. So we must be clear-eyed about the threats. And
Thanks for joining me, guys. Appreciate you guys.
Secretary Rollins for taking leadership on an issue which has been troublesome for years. And we have governors here, like Kristi Noem in South Dakota, just leadership on that. She was doing that before anybody was paying attention. We're going to hear from Governor Huckabee. Arkansas has led the way on this issue at the state level, even as the federal government has been silent about it up to this point. The last thing is big things like Smithfield Foods. I don't know if you know this, but this one really troubled me when it happened. But the Chinese bought Smithfield Foods and basically control about 1/8 of the world's pork supply now. And we worry, we've had food inflation. We worry when things happen that can be part of that. And then the other key purchase which we allowed them to do was Syngenta. Well, what is that? It's a seed company. And in a world of ever-changing pests and things like that, and climate differences about where water is and things like that, seeds really can be the revolution that keeps the world fed. And China now owns a key part of that. So what Secretary Rollins is doing today, it's a historic day. She's putting down the marker that the United States is no longer going to tolerate the attacks on our agricultural system, not just the land, but the supply chain as well. She deserves more than a hand. She deserves a helping hand here. And that's why the other aspects of our government are behind us as well. So I appreciate being here on this absolutely gorgeous day. And again, I commend the leadership of the people behind me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Again, no one more of a warrior than he on these issues and many others, so thank you. Next, also from the first Trump administration, now the governor of the great state of Arkansas, who another leader in this area. Please help me welcome Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Good morning. It is incredible to be here and be joined with people who really understand what it means, not just to love our country, but to be willing to do things that actually preserve, protect, and allow us to pass on what makes our country so great to the next generation. And that's exactly what you see in the collaboration of the people that are gathered behind me. I'm so proud of the fact that Arkansas was the first state in the country to kick a Chinese-owned company off of our farmland and out of our state, and we made them pay for it, very Trump-esque. And in the last couple of months, we've passed new legislation just this year, allowing us to prohibit them from now not only owning farmland in our state, but from building or buying land around our military bases and critical infrastructure. It is something that has to happen and something that states have been leading the way on. But unfortunately, our states can't do it alone. That's why events like today matter so much. That's why leadership from people like Secretary Rollins matter so much. The fact that we now have a president who understands who our real enemies are and is willing to take them on is making a huge difference, not just in our country, but around the world. You know, we've talked a lot about today a country's ability to feed itself, but that's not the only place, and that's not the only role agriculture plays. A country has to be able to feed itself, fuel itself, and fight for itself to truly be free. And that's why what this group represents is every component of that. And we now have a president who understands it and is willing to do everything within his power to make sure the United States continues to be the greatest country on the face of the planet. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because we have great leadership. And I'm proud of the role that Arkansas has been able to play, but I'm more excited about the leadership that we now have in Washington that is going to take this to all 50 states and frankly all across the world. Having this group, there are no people I have greater confidence in. Secretary Hegseth leading the greatest military on the face of the planet, and nobody better suited to do so. He's tough, and I'm pretty sure he could take every member of the cabinet in an arm wrestling competition, but he's not the only tough one up here. There's no chance that China has going up against my friends Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, and Brooke Rollins. They are not only the toughest women in Washington, they're some of the toughest people in all of America. And this group of people, under the leadership of President Trump, is not only going to protect our great country, but they're going to make sure that we have the ability to pass it on to the next generation behind us. I'm so grateful for their leadership, so thankful I get to be part of an effort that is going to make sure that the freedom of our country is protected and preserved for every single American to enjoy. Thank you for letting us be here, and thank you, Brooke, for putting this amazing event and this great plan together to help our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Governor Sanders. Also at the front of the battle, Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. Let me just add my words of gratitude to President Trump and to his administration. And it's an honor to stand here with these great leaders. I have served as the governor originally in President Trump's first term, and then through the Biden administration, and now again in the Trump administration. During the years when President Trump was not in office, and governors like myself and Governor Sanders and Governor Pillen were working individually to secure our farmland. So in Tennessee, we have passed laws that prohibit ownership, that require divestment if found, that impose strict penalties for those foreign adversaries who take our property. We have also passed the Farmland Conservation Act in order to make it easier for the next generation of farmers to live and operate in our state. But that work was really hard in the previous Biden administration because we didn't have a partner who understood the threats and the challenges that we understand in Tennessee. So I'm so grateful for President Trump's leadership here, especially for Secretary Rollins' leadership, who she and I connected early on. My family is a multi-generational farming family as well. And I understand that when my grandfather was farming in Tennessee, the issues that we're talking about today didn't exist. But for my grandchildren who live on our family farm in Tennessee today, we understand that our farmland is not just dirt. It is our national security. It is our economic future. It is our children's heritage. And it is under threat. And the leaders here recognize that. We've taken steps at the state level, but now, refreshingly, we have an administration and multiple cabinets who are coming together collaboratively with governors across the states and making sure that America's future is preserved for the next generations. Thank you.
Our first conversation, Governor Lee and mine, was not about how to save America. It was about our mutual love of Hereford cattle. So we are forever bonded. Listen, y'all, next, another great governor, great leader on this issue. Please help me welcome Governor Pillen of Nebraska.
Well, good morning, and just an incredible shout out to everybody in the cabinet and Brooke and her incredible leadership, and a great thank you for President Trump assembling what I view as extraordinary leaders across all the cabinet to absolutely make America great in a special, special place. This is very, very touching for me to have the opportunity to be here. I'm the 41st governor of Nebraska. I'm the first governor that's made my living from agriculture in 100 years. I have simply sat and looked in my career of over 40 years and saying, what on earth is going on with China? I believe this. I believe in family farm security. I believe in food security, and that equates to national security. Nebraska is doing its fair share. I believe we need to do more than our fair share. So our first year in 23, we were able to pass legislation that took all Chinese equipment off of all telecommunications across the state. That was the first step. Second step was making sure that no land is purchased by any foreign adversaries in the state of Nebraska. Third step is simply that we have direct conversations with companies that are from China. Peter Syngenta called me, wanted to come to the Capitol and have a meeting, and I said, I have no interest in having a meeting, have no interest in you being in Nebraska. My suggestion would be to leave. My suggestion would be to get a different job. I'm really, really proud to announce that Syngenta has sold their business in Nebraska to a family-owned genetic company from the United States. So we're really excited about that. I think that what is really, really important is I think back on 40 years of things that have gone on that has never made sense. It's really important that the leaders behind me, that we continue to have the courage and the wisdom to never back down and to stand up and protect our land and protect our families, because we all in agriculture risk. We talk about gambling, Christy, we all risk everything we have every single day to put food on the grocery stores. And then lastly, I'm really, really excited about Secretary Rollins and her understanding and work in terms of foreign animal disease, because that's another risk where adversaries could have a great impact. These are issues that are really, really important, and none of us can ever give up. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Now Senator Tommy Tuberville from the great state of Alabama.
Damn, she didn't call me coach. I always look for a day like this when I was coaching. I'd work the hell out of them, and then we'd line up down in the parking lot and just run for about an hour, you know. Just think about it right now, though. Our farmers every day go out in this every morning to scratch the ground to try to make a living and try to feed all of us in this country. And they're very important. I'm on the Ag Committee, Armed Services Committee. I've seen it all. I'm not a politician. I've been on the front row and been able to watch the devastation of our farming community in the last 4 years under the Democrat, Socialist, Communist Biden party. It was devastating. Input cost high, $5 diesel. Instead of a $700,000 cotton picker, they're $1.5 million. They wanted to put our farmers under. We lost 150,000 farms and 25,000 farmers in the last few years. Folks, we are in trouble in ag, really trouble. And we just tried to help them with reference prices in the big, beautiful bill we just passed, but they're gonna need a lot of help. They are scratching and clawing just to make a living. Thanks for Brooke putting this on. China is a threat. They're not a threat. They are dominating us in almost everything that they do, because we've set back and the politicians have been counting their money instead of doing what's right and helping this country stay in the front. We've got to be number one. We can't be number two. We've got to fight back. They are coming into our country and buying our farmland. In my state of Alabama alone, they own 2.2 million acres of farmland. That's right, in Alabama. Foreign adversaries. It's embarrassing of what we've done. Now, don't blame the farmers. The farmers have to make a living, and if they can't make a living, they have to sell their farmland. The Biden administration forced our farmers to sell their farmland by all the things they did to them. It's a disgrace. Brooke is gonna bring that back. President Trump's gonna bring that back. The one thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pass the Farm Act, Foreign Adversaries Act. What is that? We have a group in this country called CFIUS. CFIUS is a group of cabinet members that determine who buys what if it's a foreign sale. I mean, they all get together and they look at it, whether it's a steel company, whether it's farmland, whether it's some kind of business. That's what CFIUS does. And it's made up of high-ranking cabinet members in the White House. Who is not on there? The Secretary of Agriculture. What the hell are we doing? I mean, how far behind are we? We have to get the Secretary of Agriculture on CFIUS to protect our farmland. If we don't do it, we're going to continue to lose at the end of the day. So, thanks for being here. In a few minutes, we'll line up down in this end zone, and we're going to start running this way until I get tired of watching. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Oh, Coach, thank you so much. Next up, Senator Roger Marshall, then Chairman G.T. Thompson of the House will close it out, and then we'll answer a few questions. Please help me welcome Senator Roger Marshall.
Well, good morning, everybody. America's abundant food supply is not guaranteed. It's a strategic asset we must fiercely protect. Farm and ranch security is national security, and I'm proud today to share how Kansas is at the heart of this mission. Today, we tell China to get the hell out of American agriculture. Today, China, here's your ticket. Do not pass go. Get the hell out of American agriculture. And the Trump administration is going to lead the way. Now, I want to start by just thanking Secretary Rollins, and maybe we can help you get some Angus cattle someday for your farm. But I do want to thank Secretary Rollins and President Trump and his administration for his unwavering commitment to our farmers, our ranchers, in rural America. The big reconciliation bill we just passed exemplifies this support. It strengthened the farm safety net, including increased reference prices. It makes key business tax deductions permanent and doubles the estate tax exemption up to $30 million for couples and streamlines the 45Z tax credit. Folks, 45Z is going to do more for agriculture than all the soybeans and sorghum we sold to China in the past 5 years. This bill empowers our agriculture communities and secures our family farms for generations to come. Now, as a fifth-generation farm kid, I learned how agriculture underpins our economic stability, our public health, our national defense, our geopolitical autonomy, and our rural way of life. It contributes $1.5 trillion to GDP and supports over 22 million jobs, yet we often take it for granted. Our farmers, our ranches, our food supply chains face grave threats, specifically bioterrorism, procurement disruptions, and foreign ownerships. A virus like COVID, which was made in a lab, could target our beef and dairy cattle industry next, or a fungus could devastate our wheat and our corn. Whether it's from nature or made in a laboratory by a foreign adversary, these risks demand vigilance. Let me share how Kansas is leading the fight. We're proud to host the Animal Health Corridor that stretches from Columbia, Missouri to Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple, to Lincoln, Nebraska, where cutting-edge research thrives. And why in the world we let scientists from foreign adversaries in those experiments and in those laboratories, I'll never know. And why we're doing research with American dollars in those foreign countries of threats, I'll never know either. I want to thank President Trump in his first term. He welcomed the USDA's Economic Research Service, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, to Kansas City, which complements the National Bioagro Defense Facility in Manhattan. This synergy makes Kansas a global hub for agriculture innovation. Our strength lies in our collaboration. By uniting public and private sectors with land-grant universities like my alma mater, the fighting, ever-fighting, mighty Wildcats of Kansas State University, we're building a resilient food supply. There you go, Coach Tuberville. Let's go Wildcats. I want to commend the Department of Defense and all the agencies up here today for your joint efforts to combat diseases like avian influenza, screwworm, and foot and mouth, protecting our farmers and communities. And finally this, let me just concur with Coach Tuberville that I'm going to champion for the Secretary of Agriculture to be part of CFIUS. President Trump could appoint her, and Congress can make that legal for years to come as well. That's the best way to counter these emerging threats. Think about it. China right now owns land next to Whiteman Air Force Base, where our B-2s were launched and did just a spectacular job of, yes, obliterating Iran's nuclear armament. They own land next to Fort Riley, Kansas, home of the Big Red 1 1st Infantry Division as well. We need someone who thinks agriculture when they wake up in the morning and they go to bed and they think of agriculture as national security. Again, we can't take our food supply for granted. Kansas is leading the way, but it takes a national resolve to protect our farms, to fortify our biosecurity, and keep America's food in Americans' hands. Thank you so much. God bless us. Have a great day.
Thank you. Quick announcement, as of this afternoon, I will be officially a member of CFIUS, so that is happening. It's an incredible team at USDA and our great Treasury Secretary, Scott Besson. Finally, from the amazing agriculture state of Pennsylvania and chair of the House Agriculture Committee, please help me welcome G.T. Thompson.
Good morning, everybody. What a glorious day. A great day for making hay. And a great day for making history. For making history in terms of making sure that we are taking these next steps to secure both farm security and food security, which quite frankly is national security. As chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, I'm so appreciative to President Trump, to Secretaries Rollins, Hegseth, and Nome, as well as Attorney General Bondi for their recognition that food security is national security. In the Agriculture Committee's preparation for the Farm, Food, and National Security Act, we identified threats to food security impacting America's #1 and most essential industry, which is agriculture. Our farmers are on the front lines of food security, and that is essential to our national security. America's farm families are facing serious challenges, from foreign threats to our farmland and the theft of our intellectual property, to high energy costs driven by out-of-control inflation from the previous administration, market instability, poor SNAP integrity, crushing taxes, extreme weather, and an often unreliable workforce. All of these make life harder for America's farm, ranch, and forestry families, and jeopardizes our country's food security. I want to thank President Trump for using every tool at his disposal to make America's food supply safer. The One Big Beautiful Bill included a historic investment in our agriculture value chain, including provisions for the bipartisan Farm, Food, and National Security Act. The One Big Beautiful Bill includes investments to strengthen our livestock biosecurity from foreign animal disease, as well as delivers major tax relief, shields the next generation of farmers from the death tax, supports affordable energy policies that keep family farms running and food prices low. It includes historic integrity measures for the SNAP program and so much more. But there's still a lot of work left to be done. On behalf of the House Agriculture Committee, I look forward to partnering with Secretary Rollins and others across the administration on this important initiative. Farm and food security is national security. Thank you, President Trump and this dynamic cabinet team for your commitment and your leadership. God bless and thank you so much.
Okay, everyone, we're going to open it up for some questions. I would note that while we were standing here and all of you were sitting there, it's too bad Secretary Bobby Kennedy's not here because we're all getting a lot of vitamin D today. So we'll let him know. He'd be very proud. All right, we'll take some questions from the press.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. Mary Margaret with the Daily Wire. Two questions, if that's okay. First of all, I'm seeing on this map that there's a lot of Chinese-owned farmland in California. Are you looking into the severity of that and what those consequences are? And then number two, the president has expressed concerns about how mass deportations would affect the farm industry. Do you have concerns on this front? And are you hearing about some of these top conservatives saying that there's a push for amnesty for this workforce?
Well, thank you for those questions. The first thing I'll say on California, and I'd love for anyone else to join me if they have thoughts on that, is this, that a lot of people said, well, look at the red states are the ones leading the way. The red states are the ones that are banning the Chinese-owned farmland, and this is true. but I have to believe that even the Democrat governors and even the blue states realize what a massive threat this is to national security and how important it is. So we plan to work with everyone, no matter which party, no matter which side of the aisle they're from, to ensure that the people of this country and our agriculture farmland is protected. The second question, I appreciate you bringing that up. There's been a lot of noise in the last few days and a lot of questions about where the president stands in his vision for farm labor. The first thing I'll say is the president has been unequivocal that there will be no amnesty, and I think that's very, very important. I and the rest of our cabinet certainly support that, effectuate that, and make sure that happens every single day. The second thing, to your question about mass deportations, the president and I have spoken about that once or twice, and he has always been of the mindset that at the end of the day, the promise to America to ensure that we have a 100% American workforce stands, but we must be strategic in how we are implementing the mass deportation so as not to compromise our food supply. Ultimately, the answer on this is automation, also some reform within the current governing structure. And then also, when you think about, there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we're thinking about right now. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce. And ultimately, it's the wonderful members of Congress behind me who are taking this on the fixing the current immigration system. So thank you so much.
We have a fireworks display about 9 o'clock tonight. I hope you're all going to be around and watch it. I know our congressmen and our senators who are standing right here, so many of them, they did such a great job. They're going to be here. I guarantee you, they're not leaving. They're not leaving. Thanks as well to the National Park Service, the USO, and countless friends and distinguished guests. We have so many people in the audience that have so much to do with the success of our country. We've, I think, had probably the most successful almost 6 months as the president and the presidency. I think they're saying it was the best 6 months, and I know for a fact they're saying the last 2 weeks there has never been anything like it as far as winning, winning, winning. So as you know, 2 weeks ago, our incredible Air Force pilots conducted one of the most successful military strikes in all of history, Operation Midnight Hammer, and that's exactly what it was. It was a hammer. This evening, we're honored to be joined by 150 airmen and their families from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, home of the B-2 bomber. And we've kept them a little bit on guard. We kept them a little bit, let's be a little bit quiet about it. But if you want to raise your hand very quickly, raise your hand, because you people are just incredible. They don't want to be in disguise. You know, they say, we don't have to do that. They're looking at us like we're a bunch of babies. We don't have to be in disguise. We saw all those hands go up. Thank you very much. We owe you everything. Great job. Incredible. Just flawless. One of the most flawless military campaigns in the history of our country. If you remember years ago, they had helicopters crashing into each other. We didn't have any crashes. We didn't lose any planes. We didn't lose anybody. Those beautiful planes that you saw were totally stealth. They flew right over the center of a very hostile country, and they never even saw it coming. And then they said, skedaddle. They dropped the bombs. They said, skedaddle. And that big sucker turned over like this on its side, and it got out of there. Well, I'll tell you what, how they do that, but they can do it. I asked our great General Kane, how do they do that? Do they really love doing that? Look at them, they're all laughing. And they said, do they really like doing it, sir? They can't wait. Better you than me. That's all I can say. It was a flawless mission. Every single bomb hit, and it was total obliteration. Total obliteration. Now, even the fake news is admitting that. They hated to admit it, but they had no choice. That was an incredible thing, and these heroic pilots showed our enemies what it means to fly, fight, and win. To every service member who supported that mission, and we have many of them here. We've made we've made you proud by supporting, but you've made us even prouder by having the courage to get in those gorgeous machines and fly through the roughest airspace anywhere in the world. And we salute fly through the roughest airspace anywhere in the world. And we salute you and we honor you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And we're also honored and delighted to be joined by hundreds of service members and military families. Those families are the best we have from all across the U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. I love the Space Force. You know why? Because we're the ones that did it. It turned out to be a very invaluable force, actually. The Coast Guard and the Marines are incredible people. On behalf of our entire nation, this 4th of July, we thank you for keeping America safe, strong, sovereign, and free. Thank you very much for being here. And stick around for the fireworks. And our country's had so much to celebrate this Independence Day as we enter our 249th year. America is winning, winning, winning like never before. I'll tell you, we're in a category now that's where we've wanted to be for a long time. We suffered with 4 horrible years of embarrassment. Afghanistan may be the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. We're never going to let a thing like that happen again. Trillions of dollars are pouring into the United States for investment purposes. Almost $15 trillion. There's never been anything like it. There's never been anything even close. The stock market's at an all-time high. Jobs are at an all-time high. Everything's at an all-time high. And we're going to keep it that way. We're the greatest country in the world, and we're back. We're back like nobody thought possible this quickly. I thought it would take maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3. And we did it in less than 6 months. So we are back and strong. We've restored American strength and deterrence on the world stage. We're respected again. The world is respecting us again. When we did NATO, those leaders came up to me and they said, you know what, we're going to go to a new level of spending because you're requesting it, sir. They didn't talk to you last president like that, I can tell you. They didn't spend any money. They didn't spend anything. In a few moments, we're going to make official the greatest victory yet when I signed the one big, beautiful bill. And before I start, I want to tell you that I've never seen people so happy in our country because of that. Because so many different groups of people are being taken care of, the military and civilians of all types, jobs of all types. We're adding things like the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, a child tax credits. So many things are being added that we wouldn't even have time to discuss it. When we were doing it, John Thune and Mike Johnson right there, I see Mike, what a job they've done. What a job they've done. But you know, it was supposed to be in 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 different bills. And I was on one of the fake news shows and I said, let's do it in one beautiful, big, we want one big, beautiful bill. I said that to this newscaster, and I think a lot of the congressmen and senators were watching, and they said, let's name the bill that, one big, beautiful bill. And that's what we did, and what we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history. We've never had anything like that before. Nothing like that they thought would be possible to get passed. And actually, I liked it because we had so much in there that no matter who you are, there was something in that bill that would make your congressman or your senator or your congresswoman, much more importantly, raise their hand and support, right, Lisa? So that was something, and it was really something special. So the American people gave us a historic mandate in November. We won everything. We won the swing states, all 7 swing states. We won every one. That rarely happens. We won the popular vote. We won the districts, 2,750 to 505. That's why when you look at a map, it's all red, a little blue on each end. but it's all red. And by the way, red means Republican, just in case. But we made promises, and it's really promises made, promises kept, and we've kept them. This is a triumph of democracy on the birthday of democracy, and I have to say that the people are happy. They're happy. And I listened to a broadcast, and I read a couple of articles. They have the Democrats, they should have voted for it. They didn't vote for tax cuts. They didn't vote for taking care of people. They didn't vote, not one vote. And we knew that because their hatred of either the country or me or both is so great. They didn't vote at all, and it's terrible. But I just have to say, they have a routine. It's terrible, they say. Terrible, terrible. You saw that guy standing up for hours yesterday. You didn't know what he was even doing there. I said, what is he sitting down? He had a towel. He's wiping his face. That's not too elegant. But what is he? I said, what is he doing for so long? And he couldn't criticize the bill. He was criticizing everyone else and everything else. So they've developed, and this is according to the news media, they've developed a standard line, and we can't let them get away with it. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, everybody's going to die. It's actually just the opposite. Everybody's going to live. This is just the opposite. And I just want you to know, if you see anything negative put out by Democrats, it's all a con job. And they said, and they compared it to just like the con job of Russia, 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 and all of the other things they did. The 51 intelligence agents said, and the laptop from hell, it came from Russia, they said. No, it didn't. A lot of things come from Russia. That didn't come from Russia. And it was all proven out to be a fake job, and that's what they're doing with this. So we just have to look forward, fellas, look forward and just say what it is, because it's the most popular bill ever signed in the history of our country. Whether you're military or anybody else, this is the most popular bill ever signed. And it includes the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut, $1.7 trillion, and yet you won't even notice it. Just waste, fraud, and abuse in American history. So you have the biggest tax cut, the biggest spending cut, the largest border security investment in American history. We want to have strong borders, and the only thing is we want to have great elections too. You need strong borders and elections, and my people have promised me that we're going to go into elections, and we're going to make sure they're not rigged, that they're not sullied. We're going to make sure that the elections are going to be fair. You need two things. You need strong borders, and you need fair elections. And we're going to make sure on the elections also, and our armed forces are one of the most vital military modernizations of all time. It will take place. So we rebuilt our military in our first term, and now we're going to modernize and remodernize our military, including building a great golden dome all over our land, so that if they get nasty with us, it's going to be knocked down. It's going to make any of the golden domes, they call them the iron domes, we're calling ours the golden dome, because we did the iron domes, and we do sort of everything, if you want to know the truth, but this blows it away. We're going to keep you safe. I want to thank every member of the House and Senate who worked to get this bill on my desk, and many of them are here, and I'm not going to mention all their names because we'll be standing here, but I have to mention a few, and especially I want to thank Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's been incredible. We have somebody that it was a passion. I think he actually loved it. It wasn't easy, but he loved it. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who's right here. Speaker, thank you very much. What a job, and he worked so closely with the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who's a fantastic guy. And those two are a team that is not going to be beat. When you look at them and you look at their counterparts on the other side, it's not even close. I want to thank both of you people for doing an incredible job. Thank you very much, John and Mike. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a brave man. Steve, you know, he suffered a tragedy a number of years ago. I was at his hospital bedside that night with Melania, with our First Lady, and he had no chance. The doctor said he has very little chance, and you look better today than you did then. You didn't look particularly good that night, I will say. But I learned one thing, his beautiful wife loved him. She was a disaster, right? I told him, I said, Steve, I can only tell you one thing. I was with your family and I was with your wife, and your wife was devastated. She loves you. I've seen a lot of wives that, they don't seem to be so concerned in those situations. But that's the kind of wife you don't want. But you have a great, beautiful wife who was really there, and you really have done. You're a very brave guy, and Mike and John and everybody that's standing with you knows it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. House Majority Whip, this is a guy who's great. When I have a problem, I call him up and he gets it done. He's a tough cookie. I don't know why he's not the governor of Minnesota. He comes from Minnesota. He's like, look, he goes, no, I don't want to run for governor. Come to think of it, I think that's a good idea. You would win so easily. The guy is terrible. You would win. You just have to take a look at that handsome face of yours and you'd win. Tom Emmer, everybody. He did a great job. I think you should consider that, although we don't want to lose him, do we? We don't want to, let's say we are. I think say we are. What a job you did. And Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's incredible. Senate Finance Chairman Mike Crapo, thank you, Mike. What a job. What a job. He knows that tax stuff. Him and Jason, they really know their stuff. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, what a good man he is. I see a poll, he's running, and I see a poll, he's 24 points up. That's not bad, Lindsey. That's not bad. 24 points up in the great state of South Carolina. House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith. What a job. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. These people are great. These are great patriots. I have to call them out. House Budget Committee Chairman Jody Arrington. Jody, thank you very much. Jody has been good right from the beginning, and so many others, and they're all here, and they fully understand. They'll never speak to me again, but that's okay. It is what it is, but I just want to thank everybody. A lot of senators here, a lot of congressmen and women here. Lisa, thank you very much, by the way. I have to thank you. Thank you very much. You've been fantastic. So this bill will fuel massive economic growth and lift up the hardworking citizens who make this country run. The factory workers, farmers, mechanics, waiters, waitresses, police officers, firefighters, coal miners. Coal is back. Beautiful. I said you can't use the word coal unless you precede it by saying clean, beautiful coal. It's what, China's right now building 68 coal generating plants, and we're putting up wind. It doesn't work, I will tell you. Aside from ruining our fields and our valleys and killing all the birds, and being very weak and very expensive, all made in China. I noticed something, that with all of the windmills that China sends us, well, we waste our money because it's the most expensive energy. I see that, they make about 95% of them, the wind turbines. I have never seen a wind farm in China. Why is that? Somebody check that out. Tom Emmer, would you please check that out? But all the coal miners we love and the truck drivers, in this act, we have officially made the Trump tax cuts permanent. That's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, added to substantial other cuts, which is you're gonna see like a rocket ship. We're setting all sorts of economic records right now, and that's before this kicks in. After this kicks in, our country is going to be a rocket ship economically, and we've delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And that's why when you hear things like that, this is it's the biggest bill of its kind ever done by far. But we are going to have a situation, we are going to have something where people are going to realize the level of success and popularity of this bill. And sort of to close it out, it makes the child tax credit permanent for 40 million American families. And to increase the car affordability, it makes interest on a new car payment. So this had never happened before. You buy a car, you borrow money, you're allowed to deduct for income tax purposes your payment of interest, you're allowed to deduct it. It's never happened before, so run out and buy a car. But I have to tell you, it's only good, Mike, if it's made in America. If it's made in another country, you don't get it. And to protect 2 million family farms and other small businesses, we're eliminating the estate tax or the death tax. So if you want to leave your farm or your small business, but the farms they have been devastated, to your children, if you love your children. By the way, if you don't love your children, don't even listen to what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. But if you love what you live, yes, I think you love your child. This one loves Barron. So I don't know if we're a small business. I think we're not. I'm not sure that we qualify. I'm sorry, darling. But you know, it was devastating. Farmers had to go out and borrow money. And by the way, is that Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi, raise your hand. Thank you, Pam, for being here. Attorney General, she's done an incredible job. So there won't be any, think of this, there won't be any death tax. You're not gonna have to go borrow money. Your parents pass away and the farm goes into the bank's hands and gets foreclosed. That's not gonna happen. And with 100% expensing for new investments, we're cutting taxes for every manufacturer who builds, expands, and we have expansion at the highest level that we've ever had it. We have hundreds of factories, including car plants and AI. It's coming into our country at levels that we've never seen. And to conclude, not only will we have the strongest economy on earth, we're also going to have the strongest borders on earth. And last month, did you see the number? 0 people crossed our border. 0 illegal people. And that's after Joe Biden let 21 million people, many of them people from gangs and prisons and drug lords and people that were mentally unbalanced. They let them into our country. We're getting them out at record numbers, and we have an obligation to, and we're doing it. So as we approach the 250th anniversary of America's founding, exactly 1 year from now, we are creating an economy that delivers wealth for the middle class, a border that is sovereign and secure, and a military that is unmatched, unequaled anywhere in the world. And you saw that. And what a beautiful sight that was, especially after watching what they did just a short while ago. The golden age of America is upon us. We are in the golden age. It's going to be a period of time, the likes of which I don't think this country has ever experienced before. We're going to make America great again, and it's happening very fast. We love you. We thank you for being here. Enjoy the fireworks tonight. And First Lady, I want to thank you. You have been unbelievable. You think it's easy being First Lady? It's not. Thank you all very much. Happy 4th of July. God bless you all. Thank you very much, everybody.
This is the gavel used to enact the big beautiful bill, and I want you to have that. Are you ready? Are you ready? Good.
President Trump signing his signature bill there right at the White House on this 4th of July as he is surrounded by Republican lawmakers that helped make his vision a reality here. So again, a live look at the White House after he signs the big, beautiful bill. And we will continue our coverage here on Live Now from Fox, of course, a little bit later, just like the president said. 9 p.m. Eastern is when the D.C. fireworks will be going off near the White House. And President Trump will be there alongside the First Lady, and we'll see some of that, but it looks like he's still talking here, so let's listen.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th.
So President Trump signing this major mega bill at the White House with military families that are joined on the South Lawn there for a picnic, and they are taking in the festivities before the big fireworks show that will be happening a little bit later in Washington, D.C. And of course, we are going to be your destination when it comes to the fireworks spectacular, not only in D.C., but really all across the country, from big cities to small towns. We've got you covered here on Live Now from Fox. Happy 4th of July. I'm your host, Mike Page. Great to be with you. It's an honor to be with you here on this holiday. And we want to get you ready again. 4th of July fireworks spectacular. Our coverage starting today at 8 p.m.
The Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law. In striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch, the Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect, or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases. And I think they're doing a great job. Pam, please say a few words.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that, 94 districts, and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies, from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HF investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have allowed district court judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power, and they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms, 5 different presidents, and it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sauer, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law. It's a great day for the Justice Department, and it's one that's been a long time coming, and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fight these injunctions and to emergency appeals, emergency stays, going back to the district court judge, asking them to change their view. And so their hard work is really paying off today, but over the past few weeks. We had a stay of an order that prevented DHS from moving aliens to a third country. We had a stay of an order that stopped the Department of Defense from implementing military readiness, the EO that President Trump signed. We had another stay of an order forcing reinstatement of fired executive branch employees, entirely within the president in Article 2, his right to do. We had a stay of, as you all know, of numerous DOJ cases. And again, every one of those stays requires a tremendous amount of work and effort by the lawyers and parties involved. They should be doing other work. They should be doing the work that the president and this administration demands and has a right to demand, and not fighting these local judges who don't make decisions based on the law. They make decisions because they just simply don't agree with the administration's decision about policy, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Pam, please.
Go ahead. Sure. Thank you, Madam Attorney General. So as you know, the Supreme Court did not rule on the underlying constitutionality of the President's birthright citizenship order. So what is the plan now? Are you going to try to implement the EO just in states where there isn't a legal challenge?
Yes, so birthright citizenship will be decided in October in the next session by the Supreme Court, unless it comes down in the next few minutes. And I guess it could come down. I think they're still deliberating right now on some cases. As you heard, we just got transgender books, which is a huge win. But most likely, that will be decided in October in the next session. However, it indirectly impacts us because, as you correctly pointed out, if there's a birthright citizenship case in Oregon, it will only affect the plaintiff in Oregon, not the entire country. So yes, it's indirectly, but that's pending litigation, and we're waiting on that in the next term.
And how concerned are you that the Supreme Court will come back and determine that the executive order is unconstitutional?
Oh, we're very confident in the Supreme Court, but again, it's pending litigation, and that will directly be determined in October, but it indirectly impacts every case in this country, and we're thrilled with their decision today. Peter.
Madam Attorney General, thank you for being here to take our questions. A couple questions to the both of you. The EO had a 30-day grace period before it goes into effect. Is there any thought about trying to make it effective immediately within that period of time?
We're going to follow the law. We're going to make those decisions, and we're going to do what's right in the bounds of the law.
And then the DOJ didn't ask the justices to rule on the merits of the birthright citizenship ban. Just for explanation purposes, why?
Sure, because that's going to come down in October in the separate. This was huge because it's indirectly impacted today. As I said, it's case by case. Let me reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as President of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, DC, Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts, so yes, it indirectly impacts us. It will be a separate decision in October. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. President. A question for you, sir. Do you believe this ends the power of the lower court judges to stop your agenda? Do you see this as a full green light for your agenda going forward?
Well, you'd have to really speak to the lawyers about that, but this is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years because their decision would sometimes take years to overturn. We've overturned many of the decisions, but it would take years to do it. And we have to act quickly when it comes to illegal immigration. We have murderers, killers, we have drug dealers, we have what they've allowed to come into our country. Should never be forgotten. It should never be forgotten what they've done to our country. And we have to be able to act very quickly, and we're gonna do that. Thank you.
Just Tony Barrett, sir, I know that you praised her and her opinion here in this case. She has taken some heat, though, from some of your supporters who have labeled her weak, a squishy, a rattled law professor. What is your take on that?
I don't know about that. I just have great respect for her. I always have. And her decision was brilliantly written today. From all accounts, yeah.
Mr. President, what would you say to Americans who fear that this is more and more concentration of power in the White House and the
Well,
executive?
this is what brings back the Constitution. This is what it's all about, and this is really the opposite of that. I mean, the question is fine, but it's the opposite. The Constitution has been brought back.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Illegal crossings in the border are 0 now.
0. Does everyone hear that? 0.
Trump 2028!
Do you defend President Trump?
I like him. He's working the cameras.
With this new reality, President Trump in the border, do you intend to engage personally with leaders from South America, not only Central America, in order to tackle this situation in a different way? And if you have a perspective of meeting some presidents from South America, as Brazil, for example.
As an example, not South America, but NATO over the weekend. They have great respect for our country now. They did things that nobody thought was possible. They took funding from 2% to 5%. Nobody thought they'd ever pay the 2%, and now they're paying the 5%. It's over $1 trillion more a year. Think of that, $1 trillion. Nobody thought that could happen. It's a different group of people, different countries. But we get along with a lot of countries. We are respected again. Our country, the U.S., is respected again. Was not respected 6 months ago. I can tell you. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Mr. President, you have a deadline coming up on trade in 2 weeks. Which countries?
On what?
On trade, on tariffs.
Yeah.
Which countries, if any, are close to agreements with the administration?
Well, that's an interesting question. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal with probably 4 or 5 different countries. With the UK, it was a great deal for both. And we're in the process of making some others. But ultimately, in fact, Scott is here. And Howard Lutnick, these 2 guys have been doing an incredible job. And the people that work with them have been doing an incredible job. But, you know, we have 200 countries. You could say 200 countries plus. We can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly. But some of the bigger countries, so India, I think we're going to reach a deal where we have the right to go in and trade. And right now it's restricted. You can't walk in there. You can't even think about it. We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but as of this moment, we've agreed to that, go into Indian trade. We're going to be trading in China. That's going to come a little bit down the road, but we're going to be trading in China. We have a lot of great things going, and we're getting along with countries, but some will be disappointed because they're going to have to pay tariffs. And we've taken in already hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. No inflation. The only problem we have is we have a Fed guy that doesn't understand what's happening, and it would be great if he'd lower the rate because we'd be able to borrow a lot cheaper. Why don't we keep it on this subject? This is such a big subject. You know what? Trade is so big, but this, I don't know, in a certain way, this might be bigger than trade. I think this is bigger than trade. Yes, please, go ahead.
I was wondering though if you could.
So on the transgender ruling, the Supreme Court ruling that parents with religious objections can pull their kids out of public school lessons that use LGBTQ materials. Pam brought it up. Your reaction to that ruling today, sir?
I think the ruling was a great ruling, and I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal. So it's wonderful. It's parental. And I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents. Yeah.
Mr. President, if you look at the back at the last week, it's been extraordinary in terms of the action in the Middle East. You were at The Hague.
A week, hasn't it?
I'm wondering now if you believe that Iran. I'm wondering now, sir, if you believe that Iran has given up its long history of ambitions with nuclear weapons, or what you would like to see from them to prove that they do, and what type of meetings is your administration looking for next week with Iran?
So Iran wants to meet. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites that were now has been proven. We had some fake news for a little while. The same people that covered the Hunter Biden laptop was from Russia. The same people that did 3 or 4 other Russia hoax. No, wait, just listen. They came up with something that delayed the credit that our great pilots and these great what talent that was, and they hit it right down in the spot. 52,000 feet. Think of this dark, no moon, you couldn't see a thing. And they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target. And overwhelmingly, and it's amazing what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it. And we took out the other, 2 of the other sites also, in addition to that. We finished them all. That was a very evil intention. I believe that, and again, time will tell, but I don't believe that they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear, and they never got it together. And nothing was moved from the site, by the way. To do that is very dangerous. It's very, very heavy material. Those cars were most likely the cars of Masons because they were pouring concrete at the top, at the hatch, as you know, the hatch going into the nuclear site. They wanted to reinforce it, and they had some Masons there pouring concrete. By the way, that concrete was obliterated. It hit exactly at the concrete. It was, I don't think it had a chance to dry, but everything's down there. It's under millions of tons of rock. Yes.
Your administration has said that El Salvador is one of the safest countries in the hemisphere. So why haven't you yet canceled temporary protected status for that country? Was it part of the deal?
Well, we'll take a look. We've had a great relationship with El Salvador. They have a fantastic leader. They built a massive prison system. And I don't know exactly why, but it's a hell of a system. And we bring people there, and when they go there, they don't get out. And frankly, when they hear they have to go there, they become very nice people. They become very nice people. It's a tough system, but it's a brilliant system, and it's a system done by a very, very good leader. And we'll talk about El Salvador. A lot of respect.
Thank you. A question for you, and then a question for the Attorney General. As you go into negotiations and talks with Iran, are you demanding not only that there would be no uranium production inside of Iran, but also that Iran would turn over all existing stockpiles of uranium?
Well, you know, we're a little early for that, but something like that, yeah, we'll do something like that. Let me say that I've been saying for 25 years, even as a civilian, you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon, and that's what happened. It's been obliterated. It would be years before they could ever get going, and I really think it's probably the last thing. They have to recover from a hell of a tough war.
Would you also be demanding that the IAEA have full rights to inspect in Iran?
Or somebody, yeah, or somebody that we respect,
And then-
including ourselves.
And a question for both the President and the Attorney General. Under birthright citizenship, if this is implemented, who would be tasked with actually vetting citizenship? And how, like, would this be a situation where you have nurses and doctors checking for citizenship of parents, or?
This is all pending litigation. It's going to be decided in October by the Supreme Court, and we'll discuss that after the litigation.
If you have an undocumented baby, would that baby then be an enforcement priority?
The violent criminals in our country are the priority now. Let me put it in perspective. Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TDA members, just TDA. Everyone in this room agrees they are one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. And the Biden administration let them walk into our country for the last 4 years. 2,711 of them today have been arrested in our country. That is the priority of Donald Trump. That is the priority of this country, of Homeland Security, of all of our lawyers, of FBI. That's the priority. That will be discussed in October when the Supreme Court hopefully rules in our favor, and we're very confident of that. But you should all feel safer now that President Trump can deport all of these gangs, and not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers, and why the people of the United States elected him.
I just might add one thing, and they used birthright citizenship, some of the worst people, some of the cartels, to get people into a country, just so you know. And again, I say, if you look at the end of the Civil War, the 1800s, it was a very turbulent time. You take the end day, was it 1869 or whatever? But you take that exact day, that's when the case was filed. And the case ended shortly thereafter. This had to do with the babies of slaves, very, very obviously. And I think we're gonna win. I don't think they went about discussing it right. I came along and we looked and we said, wait a minute, this is wrong. We've been looking at birthright citizenship wrong for years. But they've used it, the cartels have used birthright citizenship to get very bad people in. And what Pam's doing and what Todd and everybody else, what they're doing at DOJ and all over, FBI, ICE, Border Patrol, these are incredible people. They're trying to keep our country safe, and they don't want to have people come in. This is just another way that they get illegal immigrants into our country, and in some cases, very, very bad ones. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your tax bill, if I could for a moment, senators are racing to rewrite parts of it right now after the Senate parliamentarian ruled that sections of it were outside of the process that they're using to get this through. Do you think that senators should respect the decisions of the parliamentarian? And what have you personally done in the last 48 hours to try and get Republican senators who are against the bill to a yes?
Well, look, it's a great bill. It's a massive tax cut. If it's not approved, your taxes will go up by 68%. Think of that, 68, a record, the highest in the history. The Democrats won't approve it only because politically it's so good for the Republicans. The Democrats aren't approving it. But think of what they're not approving. They're not approving border security. We've done a great job at the border, but we have to add some wall. We have to do various things. We have no money for that. We have no money for the border. We have no money for so many things. But if the Democrats, it'd be interesting to see if we get any Democrat votes. We should. If I were a Democrat, I would absolutely, maybe Fetterman, because he seems to be the most sensible one lately. If I were a Democrat, I would vote for this bill all day long because it's tax cuts and so many other things that are common sense. They're basic things. I think they're doing fine. The parliamentarian's been a little difficult, and I would say that I disagree with the parliamentarian on some things, and on other ways he's been fine. But we'll have to see. It's a big issue. I will tell you this: if that bill doesn't pass, the country will get a 68% tax increase. So think of this: you're a Democrat and you vote against it. That means you're voting in favor, because essentially you're voting in favor of the largest tax hike in the history of our country. And you can't do that. In addition, we're cutting costs by $1.7 trillion, and it won't affect anybody. It's just fraud, waste, and abuse.
Mr. President,
President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars from China and a lot of other countries. We took in, I had a call from somebody in the House and a high official. Sir, we have a problem. We don't know what to do. The books are a mess. I said, what do you mean by the books? The books, the money coming in. It's so terrible. I figured, oh boy, what's this? I don't like this question. I said, so what's it? There's so much money coming in, and there must be some kind of an accounting mistake, because we have hundreds of billions of dollars more money than we thought. I said, do me a favor, go check call me back. You have to call me back. Check the tariff column. Calls me back 2 hours later, says, you're right. We took in 88 billion in tariffs. They have so much money coming in. But more important than the money coming in, we have companies coming in, factories coming in, auto plants being built. AI is being built here instead of being built all over Europe and Asia. We have all of it. We have over $15 trillion, just about, Scott. I think we're right about that number. We went to Saudi Arabia. We went to Qatar. We went to UAE. Very smart people, very smart leaders, great leaders. And we took in $5.1 trillion just there. Without the tariffs, I mean, they also liked the thing called November 5th, November 6th, and November 7th. That was a very good little period of time. It was called the presidential election. You know, you used to have one-day election, now you have it go over. But even if you just took that little period, because it was pretty obvious it was going to be a landslide. And they like that, but they love the tariffs. I had Texas Instruments come in the other day, big company, and he said, we're putting in $60 billion into new plants and new equipment, new everything. Sir, you're going to keep the tariffs, aren't you? Because if I ever took the tariffs off, and we are going to absolutely keep it. And they're worried that somebody like this communist from New York someday gets elected. I can't believe that's happening. That's a terrible thing for our country, by the way. He's a communist. We're going to go to a communistic state. That's so bad for New York. But the rest of the country is revolting against it. But if somebody got elected, they're afraid that if this was taken off, well, we're going to guarantee it's never going to be taken off. And again, we're taking in think of this, hundreds of billions of dollars. And they were all confused because they've never seen this before. You know, it's always the other way. We don't have enough money. So much money is coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen. But most importantly, we have factories being built, car plants being built, companies moving to our country like never before. If you look at 15 trillion, and that's only in a few months. You know, I haven't been here that long. The presidents, like the last one, was a disaster. He's the worst president in the history of our country, by the way. What he did on our border can never, ever be forgotten. To me, that's the worst of all the things. And he's done some terrible things, grossly incompetent. Nobody knew it was him, because I don't think it was him. I think it was whoever was controlling the auto pen. But our country is doing great. And those leaders and other leaders, I just left, as you know, a large group of the most highly respected people. And that includes big countries. When you look at Germany and France and Spain, although Spain didn't come through, but they will. By the way, guaranteed they will. That was the only country that sort of tried to hold back on putting up the money. But just so you know, they said, it's unbelievable what's happened to the USA. You were a dead country. We didn't respect the country, the leader. You were dead as a doornail. One said to me, you went from being a dead country, you are right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. The whole world is talking about the USA, and everybody wants a part of it, and they're pouring into our country, and you're going to see those numbers. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question about trade. Secretary Bessent has said that he hopes tariff deals with major partners will be done by Labor Day. So if some deals are not done by your July 9th deadline, will some countries' tariffs go back up, or will they stay where they are?
Well, there are some countries that are used to ripping us off, to be honest with you. And I don't want to name them, but you sort of can name them. And they're so used to just, you know, taking it billions and billions of, look, we had a trade deficit of more than $1 trillion. Think of a trade deficit. That's because nobody cared. We cared a lot when, you know, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff. We had the greatest economy in history up until now. I think we're going to blow it away. But during my time, and especially prior to COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to blow it away now based on the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But some countries are very angry because they've been ripping us off for years. They've been making billions and billions of dollars. There was nobody to negotiate with. They could do whatever they want. They charge us tariffs, by the way, at numbers that we've never seen before. And we ended up losing much more than $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year on trade. And now they're being met with a force that's far greater than them, and they don't like it. So they're upset because instead of making, you know, $5 billion, they're going to break even. Well, they'll make a little bit. I want to be nice. They'll make a little bit. Oh, we'll make a little bit. It's a big difference. Yeah, please go.
On the 2020 election, is there any more information on the special prosecutor? So many Americans still have questions about the 2020 election. And speaking of rogue judges, would you consider appointing somebody at DOJ maybe to investigate the judges that allowed for the political persecution of you, your family, and your supporters during the Biden administration?
I love you. Who are you?
I'm Farrah from Lindell TV.
Well, that's just a very nice question. And it's not a setup. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate that question. All I can say is we're not here for that. I hope so. I hope they're doing a thing because that election was rigged and stolen, and we can't allow that to happen. You know, a lot of people tell me, sir, you just won the greatest election in the history of our country. You won in numbers that won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything. Sir, go on with your life. And many people that say that, good people, friends of mine, then you have people that say that same thing, go on with your life, but you have to find out what happened because you can't let that happen again. Look at what this lunatic did. Look at what he did. He opened our borders to people that were murderers, 11,888 to be exact, murderers, and we've captured many of those murderers, and we're bringing them back, or some of them are so dangerous that we don't even want to bring them back. We're afraid they're going to try and come back in. But he allowed people to come into this country, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, that's a mental institution on steroids, people from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers, people, jails being emptied out into our country. Venezuela emptied out almost its entire prison population into our country. But I don't want to blame them. Many countries have done that. The Congo, you know, we have a great press conference coming up later, and it's the Congo and Rwanda. You know, they were fighting for years, and it was machetes, it was vicious, it was as vicious, people's heads being chopped off. And I have a man who's very good in that part of the world, very smart, and put them together, and we're signing a peace treaty today. First time in many years they're gonna have peace. And it's a big deal. You know, we talk about Russia, and we're working that one. President Putin called up and he said, I'd love to help you with Iran. I said, do me a favor, I'll handle Iran. Help me with Russia, we gotta get that one settled. And I think something's gonna happen there. But we did some great work. India and Pakistan, that was gonna be maybe nuclear, we did that. We did a lot of work. I don't know if there's ever been a president that's done much more. Serbia, Kosovo is going to go at it, going to be a big war. I said, you go at it, there's no trade with the United States. They said, well, maybe we won't go at it. That's what happened with India and Pakistan. I was negotiating with both of them, and I said to Scott, I said to Howard, cancel all deals with India and Pakistan. They're not trading with us because they're in a war. They called back, what do we do? I said, look, you want to have trade with the United States, it's great. But you want to go and start using nuclear weapons on each other? We're not going to allow that. And they both agreed. Both have great leaders. They both agreed not to do it. So we did a lot. But I appreciate that question.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I was just speaking with Senator Ron Johnson on One Big Beautiful Bill, and he says he really wants to get to yes for you and get this accomplished.
He does, he's a good man.
But he also said that he needs more time, and he is not certain that the July 4th deadline is possible.
Well, then he's not such a good man.
Because there's too much work to
Yeah,
do.
he's a good man. Ron Johnson's doing a good job. He's very committed. Every Republican senator is committed. And, you know, you could have a couple of grandstanders, in all fairness. You could have somebody else. And it's very dangerous because our country would go from being the most successful country in the world to who knows what happens with a 68%, think of it, 68% tax increase. That was given by the Democrats because they like high taxes. I don't know what happened. You know, all my life, I'd grow up and I'd watch politicians talking. I'd say, oh, that's fun. And they were always saying, we will cut your taxes. We will cut your taxes. I never heard it. They say, we will raise your taxes. And they elect people like this guy in New York that maybe has a chance. I find it hard to believe, but he maybe has a chance. They want to raise your taxes. So they want to see a 68% tax increase. That's more money than anybody can afford. You'd go into a depression if that ever happened. So I think there's a lot of pressure to get that approved.
Is the July 4th deadline to you? If
It's important. It's not the end all. It can go longer, but we'd like to get it done by that time, if possible. Look, we have a lot of very committed people, and they feel very strongly about a subjects that you're not even thinking about that are important to Republicans. The problem we have is that it's a great bill. It's a popular bill, but we'll get no Democrats only because they don't want to vote for Trump. If that bill was their bill, oh, they would be so happy. It's so great for our military. It's great for everything. And they would normally vote, but because their hatred of Trump, they have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before. And instead of voting for a tax cut, they're voting for a tax increase of 68%. They're voting to destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, and destroy Medicaid. And we're voting to make them perfect and to make them better, make them stronger and better. They're going to destroy Medicaid and they're going to destroy Medicare, and Social Security will follow. If you vote for the Democrats, you're dead on those three things.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a related subject, many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures. And these votes are in some cases needed to pass. Are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next few years if that helps get these crypto bills passed in the next few months?
Well, it's a very funny thing, crypto. So I became a fan of crypto, and to me it's an industry. I view it as an industry, and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China. China would love to. And we've dominated that industry. It's a big industry, by the way. In fact, when the stock market went down recently, crypto and Bitcoin and all of that went down much less than anybody else as a group. And we've created a very powerful industry that's much more important than anything that we invest in. We invest in it, but really that was an industry that wasn't doing particularly well. I got involved with it a couple of years ago, and before the second term. I got involved before I decided to run. I only decided to run because I saw what was happening, and Biden was incompetent, and the administration was crooked and incompetent. And I was in Bitcoin then, not knowing if I was going to do it a third time. So it's become amazing. I mean, it's the jobs that it produces, and I notice more and more you pay in Bitcoin. I mean, people are saying it takes a lot of pressure off the dollar, and it's a great thing for our country. So I don't care about investing. You know, I have I have kids, and they invest in different things. They do believe in it. But I'm president, and what I did do there is build an industry that's very important. And you know, if we didn't have it, China would. Okay. With the glasses, gentlemen, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, are you going to cut funds in the sanctuary states, like for instance California, that keep supporting illegal immigration, and then these people work on?
Yeah, we're giving them a hard time.
And also, a foreign policy question.
They don't have a governor in California. They have a man that wants to give away everything to people that nobody's seen before. If we didn't go into Los Angeles with the military, which did a fantastic job, but if we didn't go into Los Angeles bringing in the National Guard, I would have brought the military if it was necessary, because you have to. We have the right to. That was another thing upheld by the Supreme Court. But if we didn't go in with the National Guard and be strong and tough, you wouldn't maybe have Los Angeles. It would be like the rest of California, the rest of Los Angeles. They lost 25,000 houses in a fire. They should have lost none. You know, I sent the water down. I had to break into their water supply because they just refused to do it. They're crazy. There's something wrong with them. They have plenty of water. They don't have droughts or anything. They have plenty. We let it come down from the Pacific Northwest. They routed all the water out into the Pacific Ocean for environmental reasons, okay? And now you have 25,000 houses, none of which would have burned down if you had the water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water for the fire pumps. They didn't have water in the sprinkler systems that people put in. So the answer is we're going to work with governors. We're going to work with radical left Democrats and Democrats. And we're going to make it good for everybody. We'll have to stop the crime in those. In the case of the cities, I think I can say just about all cities with heavy crime are run by Democrats. Go ahead. Yeah, with the glasses.
I'm with you on international.
Yeah, but no, the man behind you, yeah, please.
President Trump, Anthony Mashak from Africa, Lebanon. I want to ask you regarding the threats posed by Iran's allies and proxies operating in the U.S. They were threatening your life. So what do you say about that? And regarding the Lebanon, because Hezbollah is as well part of Iran's allies, is there any time frame in Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Yeah, Lebanon is a great place with brilliant people. You know, it was known for the professors and doctors and had an incredible history. And hopefully we can bring it back again. I just appointed a friend of mine who's Lebanese, and I didn't know he was Lebanese. I've known him for 20 years, very, very successful man. And I just appointed him. And I said, why would you want that? He said, because I was born there, I was raised there, I love it. I love it so much. I said, you know, it's very dangerous going to Lebanon as ambassador. And he said, that's what they say, but I don't care about danger. I mean, this is a guy that is just a very big business guy. He wants to give up his whole life to go to Lebanon because he believes in it so much. We're with Lebanon all the way. We'll try and straighten it out. Threaten my life? Yeah, they have threatened. I get that throbbing feeling every once in a while. Get that throbbing feeling, but you know what? That's okay. This is a dangerous business. What I do is a dangerous business. You know, I tell the story of the car companies and different people in different professions. You have race car drivers as an example. 1/10 of 1% die. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. That's not a lot, but it's people die. When you're president, it's about 5%. If somebody would have told me that, maybe I wouldn't have run. Okay? This is a very dangerous profession. By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it. Go ahead. You tell me when it gets boring.
If Iran...
Are you from Iran?
No, I'm not from Iran. I'm from the UK. But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
Have you had any
Turned out to be unbelievable. But, you know, our incredible flyers and I call them the shots. These guys are unbelievable. Think from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that. And just bomb after bomb going deeper, deeper, blowing up. Incredible, incredible thing. I don't know if you heard the general, he was very impressive. Raisin Cain, you know, he's the one that beat ISIS for me. And he did it in a matter of weeks. And I was told it was going to take 4 or 5 years. And when I got this job, I always said, if I get this job, I'm going to put that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Dan Cain, and he, when I heard his name was Raisin, his nickname is Raisin Cain. I said, you got to be kidding. So I liked him right from the beginning, but he knocked out ISIS in a time that nobody ever thought possible. And when this attack was completed and so successful, I said, now I know how you knocked out ISIS so quickly. But we have the best people, we have the best equipment in the world. You know, I rebuilt the military during my 4 years, during my other term. we have the best equipment in the world. The problem is, we gave away, a lot of it, but small relatively speaking. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan, shouldn't have happened. That just shows how incompetent they were. They gave all that equipment away, billions and billions of dollars worth, shouldn't have happened, but that was small compared to what we had. Now we have a great military with great people, okay.
Mr. President, congratulations. A couple of very different questions. One is Rwanda, 1994. As you grew up in New York, we all know how horrific those attacks were. Congratulations on that treaty. There are talks that perhaps...
That's going to take place today at 3 o'clock in the Oval Office. We're going to have a signing with Rwanda and the Congo. So I'm a little out of my league in that one because I didn't know too much about it. I knew one thing. They were going at it for many years and with machetes. It is one of the worst wars that anyone's ever seen. And I just happened to have somebody that was able to get it settled. I mean, just a brilliant person who is very comfortable in that part of the world. It's a very dangerous part of the world. They said, are you uncomfortable there? People are being killed. School children are being raided and killed. And I don't even want to say how, but as viciously as I've ever heard. Are you uncomfortable? No, that's the part of the world that I know. Very comfortable. Was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to, look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House, and they're so honored. And so we're going to give them a great big reception, but that's after many years of fighting. It's a great thing. That's at 3 o'clock, I believe.
Sir, are you concerned at all about secret nuclear sites in Iran? Can you talk about maybe just
secret nuclear sites?
Yes, that there might be some that there.
Can I tell you, they're exhausted. And Israel's exhausted too. And I dealt with both of them. And they both wanted it settled, both of them. And we did a great job, but they're exhausted. The last thing they're thinking about right now is nuclear. You know what they're thinking of? They're thinking about tomorrow, trying to live. It's such a mess. It's such a mess. The place was bombed to hell. And no, I'm not worried about it at all. And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in this country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. Beat up too. They were both beat up. And it was a great time to end it. It was quick. They got the hate out. There was a lot of hate. A lot of hate. It would be great if they didn't have that hate. But the last thing they're thinking about is nuclear weapons right now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Howard, NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here in this room.
It's refreshing?
Very refreshing, yes. We have to have this and,
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other than Caroline's done a great job.
Yes.
You're referring to the past administration, not to Caroline.
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are the most eager to move forward?
Well, I think taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous, this is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like, it's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected, and we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency, and it only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't. It takes bad power, sick power, and unfair power, and it's really going to be. This is a very monumental decision. Yeah, please.
Yes, Vice President, thank you very much. On July 9th, is that July 9th date set for tariffs to snap back, or could there be a?
We can do whatever we want. We could extend it. We could make it shorter. I'd like to make it shorter. I'd like to just send letters out to everybody. Congratulations, you're paying 25. 5%. He's a much nicer person than I am. So have you finished it up?
Are you considering for the Federal Reserve then? And are you speeding up that process? I see Secretary.
Oh, he's terrible, he's terrible. I mean, I have a list of things, we're like 38 on the list. We pay, Cameroon and different places are paying the same as us. Because, you have somebody sets a rate at 4% or 4.5%. It's hard to go out and say, we should be paying 1% when you have your so-called experts doing it. And the sad part is, as per the question that you asked about tariffs, we've had the tariffs and we have less inflation than we had before. What we have is a hell of a lot more money, a hell of a lot more income, and we shouldn't be paying a rate like that. In other words, when we pay a rate, I'll tell you, each point is the equivalent of $300 billion. So if we had it down 3 points, because I think we should be at 1, you have Switzerland is at 0.25, in other words, 25% of 1%. And they're the number 1 right now, but we should be the number 1. And soon you're gonna have, I think, you're gonna have where the people will pay will pay, like we had a few years ago, where you put up money, you loan money, and I mean, you actually, instead of paying, you get paid. I love that. I don't know if it's any good, but I love it, where you put up money and you get paid. But we should be in a category, so we should be at the top of the list, not toward the bottom of the list. But we have a man who's not a smart man, and he probably has Trump derangement syndrome. And he's just not a smart person. What he's doing, though, he's hurting us for years to come. Because if we borrow money at 2 points higher than we should be paying, that's $600 billion. Would you say those numbers are about right, Scott? So it's 2 points would be about 600, actually more than that, but about $600 billion, all because the guy doesn't want to lower the rates. He is doing the service, a very disservice, and then he goes up, talks about, I'd like to see costs come down. He gets up and he does this little thing for 5 minutes, then he goes out and he goes back to the beach. He goes, I'd like to see costs come down. Well, he could lower the interest cost by $900 billion a year. All he has to do is lower rates. And everybody's saying, I was watching some of the business shows today, and they're saying, Trump's right. He should really be cutting. The country's doing well. We have no inflation. Now, despite him, we're doing great. But if we got the rates down, we would be a rocket ship. So I think that'll be it. And I just want to thank everybody. This is a really big day. We've had a big week. We've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous. Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And I want to give credit to a lot of people, and most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them, incredible, the general and all of his generals. Pete Hegseth was great. And now I want to compliment Pam. A lot of genius went into this. People, if you don't say it exactly right, if the Supreme Court doesn't get it because it's incorrectly spoken about, and that happens. A lot of cases are lost because they don't say the right words. But I want to correct. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. I may change my mind about that. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll set a call and say I was only kidding. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. This was a tremendous win, and we've had tremendous wins, but this was a tremendous win today. So I just want to congratulate you and Todd and your whole staff. Very brilliant people. And we can't forget John Sauer, who is with. There's a medical emergency within his family, so he's taking care of that, and we said absolutely. So I just want to thank everybody very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Jeremy, I want to read you something. These price hikes seem like PG&E is punishing me for profits they're missing out on from solar. Our profits have nothing to do with solar or how much you use, baby. They're set by the state. If you use more, it doesn't mean we make more. Doesn't mean that. Does not mean that. Does not mean that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a good-looking group behind me. This group isn't too bad either. Very nice. Nice to be with you. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here to support one of the most important pieces of legislation in the history of our country. And that's everybody saying that, virtually everybody. The one big, beautiful bill to secure our borders, turbocharge our economy, and bring back the American dream. That's what's happening too. It's met with tremendous approval and reception. And when we were thinking about doing it, we were going to break it down into 3, 4, 5, 6, or even 7 bills. And I said, let's make it one big, beautiful bill, Mike, right? They actually said it would be very much harder to get this way, but it would be better. And the truth is, I think it worked out well because there's something for everybody. And I think in many ways, much better. We're delighted to be joined by Secretaries Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Doug Burgum, Doug Collins, Sean Duffy, Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon, Brooke Rollins, Scott Turner, Chris Wright. Wow, that's a hell of a group. I think that's the biggest group of cabinet members. That's the biggest group of cabinet, and we're not finished yet because we have our great Attorney General Pam Bondi here. U.S. Trade Representative, and he's working around 24 hours. We have one after another. Countries come. Everybody wants to be with us because we have the hottest country in the world. A year ago, we had Dow. We had a disaster on our hand. We had the coldest country, I think, by far. And now we have the hottest, the King of Saudi Arabia. When I was there, we brought back 5.1 trillion between Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And all three said, great leaders, they all said to me the same thing. You know, it's amazing, in 4 months at that time, and at that time now it's getting to be close to 6. But in 4 months, they said, you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's not even close. And they thought we were dead a year before that. They said, I thought you were dead. The country was dead. And it was pretty close to it. But we have the hottest country in the world, so it's great. And Trade Representative Jameson Greer is very busy because, where are you, Jameson? Everybody wants to make a deal and have a part of it, right? I know you and Howard and Scott are working overtime, making deals with other countries. Remember a few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? Well, we just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. My people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one. We're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good. And we also have OMB Director, who's very busy also, Russ Boat. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. And also, I want to give a very special thank you. This is a hell of a group we have here. This is amazing, the quality of people, but actually I like these people and most of those people much better than the people I just named, okay? But a very special thanks as well to Speaker Mike Johnson, who's a great, legendary guy. He's going to go down as a legend. A great friend of mine, a fantastic Senator, Roger Marshall, wherever you may be, Roger. Thank you very much, thank you. Bernie Moreno, great win Bernie had in Ohio. Bernie, great win. That was a tough race. They said that was not winnable, and he won by about 5 points, so that was pretty good. So much for not winnable. Mike Lee is here. Mike, hi Mike. Thank you, Mike. Tim Sheehy, another tremendous win. What a go, Tim. Young, handsome. That was another race that wasn't supposed to be able to be won. They said, well, we have a very young, handsome guy. I said, does that matter? Looks don't matter, do they, Mike? Looks, anyway, great job. You can't help it. You can't help it. Great. That was a great race, along with Representatives Paul Gosar, Greg Murphy, Tom Kane, Jen Kiggins, Rob Bresnahan, who's where is Rob? Stand up, Rob. Let me see you. Good. He's done a fantastic job. And Ryan McKenzie. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all. That's great. It's a big group of people. We're here this afternoon to share the stories of an incredible group of patriots from across the nation whose future we are defending with the one big, beautiful bill. This is the ultimate codification of our agenda to, very simply, a phrase that's been used pretty well by me over the last 10 years, but maybe even before that, make America great again. Very simple, make America great again. When Joe Biden used to get up and say, we will stop this horrible MAGA, we're gonna stop MAGA, we're gonna fight it, we're gonna stop. I said, Joe, listen up, it's called Make America Great Again, it's okay. Remember that he got up so angry, he was so angry, he said, make America great again. But we will deliver a record tax cut, a record spending cut, a record investment in border security. We've done so well on the border. You know, last month, we had 0 people that crossed the border. 0. So Christine and Tom Holman and some of the people, what a job you've done. But you know, people forget about that. They don't care. The border's been fixed. I wanted to talk about the border 2 days ago in a big group. Sir, they don't want to hear about the border. Why? It's fixed. You know, it's the second time it happened to me. In 2016, I won on the border. I fixed it in about 3 months. It was beautiful. And they wouldn't let me talk about the border. Sir, nobody wants to hear about the border. But we're going to talk about it anyway, right, Tom Holman? We're talking about it anyway. So we have a big number of dollars that's coming here because we want to keep it that way and we want to keep it fixed. And a record number of deportations. We're bringing criminals out by the thousands. Nobody can even imagine. They let people in that were murderers. 11,888 murderers, gang members, people from mental institutions and insane asylum. You know what that is? That's insane asylum. That's a mental institution on steroids. And during the campaign, I talk about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Do you know who that is, Hannibal Lecter? Silence of the Lambs. I talk about it, and the fake news would go crazy. Why does he keep mentioning? Well, because we won in a landslide. That's why they don't want to have Hannibal in our midst. And the day I signed this bill into law, almost every major promise made in the 2024 campaign already will have become a promise kept. And that's very important. Promises made, promises kept. And according to the Council of Economic Advisors, these reforms will protect or create more than 7 million jobs, add 3.1% to economic growth, reduce taxes for the typical American by nearly 15%, and increase take-home pay for the normal family of 4 by at least $13,000, and that takes place immediately. That's not bad, right? Look, I'm looking at that guy back there, right? That's pretty good. And if we had a person over at the Fed that would lower interest rates a little bit, that would be helpful too. It's hard to believe this is on top of, you know, we have to fight this guy, he's not doing the job. Each point that he keeps it up is the equivalent of $300 billion. $300 billion. So if you load it to, it would save $600 billion. We have to work hard with cuts on that, right? That's a lot of cutting. And this guy could do it so easily. We don't have inflation. Well, we want to have inflation. Yeah, and if you do, you raise the rate a little bit. That's okay. But we're going out because Biden gave us a lot of short-term debt. And given the short-term debt, he did us no favor. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably just extend the short-term debt and then go up because I don't want to tie it up for 10 or 15 years at a high rate. But every point is it's really more, is 300 billion. So if we got it down to 1%, we're talking about almost $1 trillion in saving just with the stroke of a pen. No work, no missing anything, just like an accounting situation. Oh, Doug Collins, I just see Doug. Did I mention you, Doug? I don't think so, but I'm glad I saw you. I'm glad that somebody's gonna be in big trouble with you. They didn't write your name down, Doug. Somebody's in big, somebody's in, I got you. So we think of that though, we save, and all you have to do is so simple. I'm explaining to this guy, and Biden extended him, that wasn't good. I'm explaining to him, you can do so much for our country. You can save $1 trillion just with a stroke of a pen. Just a little, the utterance of a sentence that we're gonna be cutting. It's a shame, it's a shame. We're one of the highest, we should be the lowest. You know, we're the United States of America. We'd have money coming in like at levels that they have never seen. I got a call the other day from the people in Congress, because we're doing our bill. I didn't even tell you this, Mike, and they called, they said, there's something wrong with the numbers, sir. I said, what's wrong? I don't know, they're not balancing out, there's something really wrong. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we don't know, I said, what's the problem? We're taking in much more money than we have scheduled. I said, so far that sounds good. They said, how much is it? About $80 billion. I said, do me a favor, check the tariff line. They called me back an hour later. Sir, we've taken in $88 billion in tariffs.
To understand the world, you need the truth. That's why we follow the facts wherever they lead, no matter how far we have to go.
$1 billion in tariffs. Isn't that a beautiful thing? 88 billion. I thought I'd tell these little stories. Go off script and tell these little stories, Scott, right? Because it does make it a little more interesting. Although my speechwriters have just gotten every award in the book. Vince, where are you, Vince? Where are we? Where's Ross? He's gotten all these awards and I'm going off the record all the time. Where is he? He didn't show up to the speech. He wrote the speech. He didn't show. Well, that means he has confidence in me. According to the Council of Economic Advisors, these reforms will protect or create more than 7 million jobs, add 3.1% to economic growth, reduce taxes for the typical American by nearly 15%, and increase take-home pay for a normal family by an incredible $13,000. All of these things are happening. And by the way, there's no inflation. All of the numbers I gave you, all of the money that's coming in, and maybe more importantly than the billions of dollars we're taking in with tariffs, is the fact that we're